when you were sort of playing with the idea of the Foo Fighters, but Tom Petty was like, hey, come join the band, come play. But you kind of knew that's an amazing offer, but this just feels right over here. Was that just all gut
I usually
instinct?
steer myself towards things that I'm not entirely sure I can do.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's so much more fun.
Right.
There's no safety net. Why the fuck not? Life's too short to just sort of do the thing that you know how to do all the time.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Let's like do something that we have no idea what's going to happen.
But it's so wonderful that you had this kind of mantra that you wrote in the book, which sort of plays into this law of attraction. And you say, what you think you become, what you feel you attract, what you imagine you create, which is, you know, we've talked about this on the podcast with Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret, and that amazing notion of being in that alignment and then it coming into your life. But equally, we've probably all had times where we've been on the opposite side of the coin, where
Sure.
we've been stuck in a negative cycle and bad shit's coming our way.
Right.
Have you found that? Do you slip into that, or are you quite good at getting yourself back into the sort of positive mindset?
Well, you know, it's funny. I knew nothing about The Secret or the law of attraction or
You're just doing it.
manifestation until I started writing the book. Someone was like, oh, that's the law of attraction. I'm like, what's that? They're like, what's that Oprah book, Secret, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of researching it. I'm like, oh, yeah. But no, there was a punk rock band from Washington, D.C. called the Bad Brains. And their whole thing was sort of based on what they called PMA, which is a positive mental attitude. And there was a writer who sort of came up with the concept years ago. And the whole thing was, if you can perceive it, you can achieve it. And I honestly felt that way when I was a kid. Like, you know, growing up with your mother's a public school teacher trying to support two kids. Like we didn't have anything. Like we barely had money to keep the heat on or the phone on, but we were happy. And so I truly thought I could do anything. I sort of still feel that way, but I really felt like I could do anything. As long as I did it my way, I'd figure it out and I could do it. And so I've always had that sort of energy, and I do believe that if you put the thought or that energy out there, there is some sort of return. Like that seance thing I had when I was 17 in my carport in my like garage or whatever. I thought like, okay, I need to become a musician. Like I need that magical thing that those other guys have. So I literally made an altar and sat down in front of it and prayed to the universe that it would happen. And it happened. And there's part of me that sometimes I'm like, did I fucking sell my soul to the devil? Like, what did I do that fateful day?
I think you were just so in alignment with it. And
yeah.
You know, if there's no doubt, you don't allow room for it, you just keep going. And I think probably the only thing that stops us from manifesting what we want is fear.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing is like, you know, it's almost with children, they probably feel the same in that there's no restriction to imagination.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do anything you put your mind to. It's as you grow older in life that you start to like become callous in this way that, you know, you just imagine that something isn't possible. And I have this theory that there's two types of people in the world. The type of person that when presented with an idea or a challenge, they say, okay, let's figure that out. Then there's the other type that immediately thinks of all the reasons why it can't be done. And I'm, of course, you know, the type that just wants to like figure it out. Let's do it. Let's figure it out. And it doesn't really matter what it is. I'm fucking confident or cocky enough that I feel like, okay, give it to me. I'll figure it out and do it.
But yeah, because it's interesting. When you were having that moment at Wrigley's Field where you were like, wow, I was across the street as a kid.
Yeah.
And now you're doing what you're doing. You said, how did I get here? Like, perhaps was it because I had the audacity to have self-belief? But it's so weird that we think it's audacious to believe in ourselves. Like, that's a strange concept.
Well, there's so many things in life that make you feel otherwise, you know, that whether it's, you know, self-esteem or self-image or the confidence to try something that you don't know you'll be able to do. My mother, ages ago, I was talking to her about something. She grew up in rural Ohio, kind of like, not a big farm, but kind of like a little tiny farm thing in the 50s. And I remember asking her about peer pressure in her community. And she said, I never compared myself to other people. I always felt like I was just my own person. And that was huge to me because no one says that. I mean, they might now, but in the 50s, absolutely not. And so I've always kind of felt the same way. And, it's empowering to feel that way. I tell my daughters that, when Violet was 8 or 9 years old, she's 15 now, she came to me and she said, hey, Dad, I want to shave my head. I said, really? How's that? I thought she was trying to grow it out. I'm like, I thought you were trying to grow it out. She goes, well, I was, but then I realized that all the other kids in school have long hair, and I'm not like them. I'm different from them. I was like, give me the clippers. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's shave it right now. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think the only time in the book where you could see that you had that moment of I feel a bit scared was when Scream, that first punk band you were playing with, said, come join, come tour. And you said you actually felt a bit scared that you'd have to grow up and like be an adult and go and do something.
Well,
but you changed
don't go
your
that
mind.
far.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, I've hit a few crossroads in my life, and it's in those moments where you have to make that decision, and that can be scary because in making any decision, you have to commit to the consequence of that decision. So that was one. I mean, at that time, I was like 17 or 18 years old. Then I realized that if I were to join this band, it would sort of set my life in a direction that would take me away from the comfort of home and my friends and the security of that. And my mother almost encouraged me, though she was a high school teacher and I was dropping out of high school, the fucking one that she taught at.
Wow.
She's like, no, you should do that. And you better be good, though. Like, you've got to be good if you're going to do this. And it was, it was inspiring. But that's happened more than a few times, joining Scream and then leaving Scream to join Nirvana. And then after Nirvana, starting the Foo Fighters. It's like you hit these points in your life where rather than just get sort of stuck in the quicksand of that moment, you sometimes have to take drastic or extreme measures to get out of it. And I did.
And do you reckon that you just have a strong intuition, like a good gut feeling? Because it seemed like those moments that you've mentioned, and also when you were sort of playing with the idea of the Foo Fighters, but Tom Petty was like, hey, come join the band, come play. But you kind of knew that's an amazing offer, but this just feels right over here. Was that just all gut
I usually
instinct?
steer myself towards things that I'm not entirely sure I can do.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's so much more fun.
Right.
There's no safety net. Why the fuck not? Life's too short to just sort of do the thing that you know how to do all the time.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Let's do something that we have no idea what's going to happen. That's kind of my thing. Like, I knew that I could go play drums with Tom Petty. I didn't feel like I was the right person to do it, but I knew I could. I hadn't the slightest idea how to be the front man of a band. And that's why I did it. Same with leaving home at 18 years old or joining Nirvana, moving up with a bunch of strangers. And there was just like, it's kind of fun when there's no safety net.